Don't be foolish, but understand what the Lord's will is. And then verse 18, he gets straight to it. So don't get drunk with wine, which leads to reckless living, but be filled by the Spirit. I'm just going to spend a few minutes on the first half, and then we'll spend the rest of the sermon on the rest of that verse. Don't get drunk with wine. Let me just say this. I won't stand in front of any of you and say that Jesus says don't drink alcohol at all or don't drink wine. If that is your conviction, I pray that you continue to live out that conviction as long as God is pleased with you for holding it. But there is nothing that says do not consume wine. Wine in the scriptures is good. It's beautiful. Think about the fact that when Noah got off the boat, one of the things that he had the opportunity to do is plant a vineyard, and then he abused it. But if we go to Isaiah, the writer Isaiah, the prophet Isaiah, he speaks of this new heaven and new earth, and he lets us know that there's a vineyard that produces good wine there. Jesus' first miracle that he performs is a miracle at a wedding, and he doesn't renew the soda. He don't renew the water. He don't let them know, hey, listen, I can make your water taste real good. No, he understands, as Proverbs says, that wine can bring joy to the heart. So he gives them this opportunity to continually celebrate, because wine is to represent a process of a grape being crushed, and yet something beautiful comes out of what's crushed. And as you sip of that good thing, you tend to feel lighter and carefree, and until you start to abuse it. And you always know when you start to abuse it. I'm preaching to Byron and not y'all. You always know when you start to abuse it because the structure of how you consume it changes. See, if you're really like wine and you go to a fancy restaurant, you expect something like this, like they bring out a nice glass and they fill it. I washed my glasses. That's why I was watering there, y'all. They fill that glass. And if you really drink wine, you know that they don't fill the cup all the way up. They put it about here, and you smell the wine. And as you're talking to people or having your meal, you take a sip of the wine and you enjoy it. Because wine is a good thing to be enjoyed until you change the way you consume it. This is how I know things are going sideways. When the way that you consume a good thing changes, when the way that you consume a good thing changes, that is the alarm that good thing controls you. Because a good thing put in something that is cheap and has no value is no longer a good thing. So now you're filling up red Solo cups. And these my cups, y'all. I drink out of these. But you tend to separate the way that God would intend for you to do this good thing and the way that you desire to do the good thing. See, because this is easy and it's accessible and you don't have to work for it. And you don't have to wait a special occasion for this. But you would never bring this to a wedding because weddings are special. They mean something to God. But this represents the way that God would have us do a thing. So when Paul writes, do not get drunk with wine, not only is he talking about the way that we consume the wine, but he's talking about the frequency and the volume of how we consume the wine. Because you don't get drunk off of one sip. You don't get drunk off of one glass. I mean, some of y'all some lightweights, but it should not take you out. It's when you overconsume. It's when it becomes your norm. This is not just about wine. y'all. This is about your life. What are you over consuming to the point where it's filling you and controlling you? What is it? It could be wine. It could be that you need your little boost of caffeine all the time so that you can be a nice person and be generous and all of that. It could be that you need to have certain interactions with people, but you over and consume those interactions to the point that they are no longer good. It could be that God gave you something beautiful in your marriage, but you overdo it. So now it's created some chasm between you and who you are called to be with. What are you over consuming in your life that has now filled you and changed your identity? This is what Paul is talking about. And yet, the contrast there is that we be filled with the Spirit. Like, think about it. Have you ever seen drunk people at a party? They ain't had no, oh, y'all. I can see it in your eyes. Y'all like, I ain't never been to a party before. But it's very clear that they have no control. It's very clear that the things that were sitting on their hearts that they expressed because now they have a little bit more alcohol in their system. They eat more. They talk more. They engage in sexual behavior more. Things that they would have normally not done sober, they would do. And yet the adverse of that to Paul is being filled with the Spirit. So think about if this is the complete contrast of that. Think about if as you were being filled by God, you knew how to direct yourself on what you would eat better. Or you would know how to interact with people better. Or you would know what decisions to make in your life better, or you would deal with conflict better, or you would have self-control more because you are filled with the Spirit and not filled with something that walks you towards death. And see, every time we see this thing about being filled with the Spirit, people want to know, especially since wine was included, we think liquid, right? We think that if this is us, then being filled with the Spirit is God just dousing us with water. He's filling us to the rim, overflow, all of that stuff. But I think there's a better illustration for us. Because honestly, if I walk around with a full cup, there's going to be some that falls out. And there's going to be some that's wasted. And then what happens when the cup gets low, then you're just saying, fill me again. See, that is an okay illustration. I think a better illustration is one like this. Think of a boat. A boat with no sail, can it be moved by the wind? Yeah, it can, if the wind is strong enough. But something beautiful happens when you put a sail on that boat, because it doesn't take as much wind to move that boat, because it's equipped with something that allows for the wind to get caught up in it and move it further than it would go on its own. See, the Spirit of God has always been amongst His people. The Spirit of God has rested on some, and it's moved some, and it's done things for some. But what Jesus promises is that when you believe in Him and your sins are forgiven, He gives you a sail. But this is the good part. You already have the Spirit. The Spirit lives within you. So now you being filled by the Spirit is the wind blowing in your sail, moving you further than what you would have gone before. That's being filled by the Spirit. So when Paul says, be filled by the Spirit, what Paul is saying is open your sail up so that you can move. Open your sail up so you can do the thing that God has called you to do. Be filled with the Spirit. If you're going to have anything controlling your life, it should be God.